So my next guest is a good friend of mine. He's a drummer. Please give it up for Josh DeCoster. Have you ever had drum lessons?
Oh yeah. That I did. I took drum lessons for about, God, when I was a kid, maybe 3 years. I think from the time that I was about, I'd say 7 to maybe 10 or 11. And then I kind of took a break after that for a couple years. Did elementary school bands, did the snare drum, I think, if I remember right. But from there, joined jazz band in 7th grade. And right around 8th grade, I kind of got back into kit playing full time. I had a couple of year break there, just, felt kind of burned out as a kid. It's so young, you don't really know what direction you really want to go in. But took drum lessons from a guy named Carlos, who is the current drummer still of Satchel Grande. It's a big Omaha kind of jazz funk band. They're amazing. I would highly recommend them. But took lessons from him for about 5 or so years. And that really formed me to be the drummer that I am today, for sure. I mean, without those lessons, it taught the fundamentals, right, of stick control, jazz drumming, Brazilian drumming, Afro-Cuban beats. I mean, all of that really has formed the basis of my drumming style to this day that I still currently use. The band that I'm in now, we have, people call it kind of jazz punk in a way, or lounge punk is the genre, because the influences are just all over the place. But I use a lot of samba in the grooves that we do, jazz drumming, funk drumming, you name it. So all of those lessons really taught me the foundation, and I incorporate all of the things that I learned from Carlos now in most of my drumming. So
do you sing at all?
Now I'm teaching lessons now, so I'm giving back what I learned to others, which is very fulfilling. So that's just something I've been doing over the past year now. So
hey, it gives you something to do,
Yeah, exactly. Yep. I don't think I need too many other new things to do, because I'm so busy now. Like, I've been painting. I got an album with my bands that we're recording in a couple of weeks. My own album that I'm recording, and podcast stuff. So it's really been all over the place, but busy's good, as I said earlier. So
Amen.
Yeah.
Have you played a lot of festivals lately?
Festivals were mostly, COVID kind of put a halt on a lot of the festivals. More gigs that I'm playing now have been sort of local places like Page Turners. We had a show lined up at Reverb. I'm playing Waiting Room next month. Trying to get a few other shows, potentially one in LA. We'll see if that one falls through. But festivals, my previous band that I was in, called Mr. E and the Stringless Kite, I played with them for 2 years. And that was a band with a lot of different influences. But we really hit the festival circuit pretty hard in like 2019, and 2020 hit. We played a few festivals then. But this year, not really too heavy on the festivals, although I miss it quite a bit. Those are some of my favorite shows, sort of the wildness of having to switch around drums and just the whole atmosphere of a festival. I have been attending a good deal of festivals this year as a onlooker, as an attendant, not playing. But I'm trying to get more next year. Hopefully those kind of get ramped back up full circuit as they were in 2019.
So if you had a book written about you, what would the title be in life?
Actually, it's a funny thing. I am writing a book right now. So my mom, she's an author. She has 2 published books of poetry and 3 other published books. So I grew up my whole life writing fiction and novels. I love to read nonfiction. I'm a big history guy, but the book I'm writing now is a novel that's sort of a historical novel, takes place in the 1800s in Texas. Wow. It's actually called State of Wolves, I think is the title that I'm coming up with. It's sort of a Cormac McCarthy style, intense novel, but we'll see. I mean, right now I'm trying to do the music stuff more than anything, trying to get all those albums out, and then maybe in a year or two we might release the book. But State of Wolves, that's just one idea I've been tossing around. Naming things is really not my forte. My whole music career since I was 14, I've been playing in bands, and every band I've not chosen the name or come up with names.
So always another person.
Yeah, left that to the singer or the main people, because as a drummer, we have such a big impact in the band, but in terms of creativity, I sort of leave that to the singers. It's their band, or whoever forms the band. But books, that's all you got to come up with that stuff. Same with, your self-produced album. So that's always creating the content is the easiest part, but the name part is typically the hardest. So
what advice do you have for someone who wants to be in the drumming music business?
Perseverance. It takes a lot of elements all in combination ultimately to be successful with music, and it can really, really burn you out. I mean, just teaching lessons in general has really taught me this. I was very privileged in the sense that when I was 5 years old, my parents purchased my first drum set for me, which is a tremendous feat for parents to do. I mean, you think of a 5-year-old kid picking up a pair of drumsticks and beating up a drum set with no rhythm or anything would be a disaster. But, over time, you start to mold that muscle memory, you mold your own style. And the only killer of somebody pursuing their dreams, I think, in any sort of industry is stopping, right?
Yep.
I run into, as I said, teaching drum lessons, always hitting snags. The fundamentals are the most critical part of picking up an instrument. You have to be able to play paradiddles and double stroke rolls continuously with a metronome for 30, 40, 50 minutes without stopping. And there's nothing more boring than doing that, but that's ultimately what gets you to the drum set. So really digging deep, finding those fundamentals and honing in on those. And ultimately, a big part of perseverance is having fun playing. Like you'll hit periods. I've hit them so many times in music because I've been playing so long that you get super burned out after a while. If you hit it too hard, you have to find a nice balance. But if you're not having any fun with it, it might be something to take a step back and say, hey, is this what I want to do? Because drums or music, any instrument in general, is a great entryway to any sort of creative outlet. Like when I was a kid, drums were the first thing, but that opened up writing, that opened up producing when I was about 18. Piano, started learning that. So
wow.
Yeah, perseverance and dedication and ultimately having fun is my best advice to anyone picking up a pair of drumsticks for the first time. So
how many people do you teach? Or like what's the age limit?
Right now, just one. There's no age limit really. The student I'm actually teaching is a little bit older than me, but that's about as much as I can handle. It's probably 1 to 3 at a time because you have different skill sets, different levels of skill that your student has. I've taught kids as young as 7 or 8 before, but yeah, right now just one student. So there's really no age limit at all. I mean, I've heard people picking up the drums at 40, 50 years old and, becoming pretty decent by the time they're 52, 53, whatever age. It only takes really a couple of years to get the fundamentals down really. But, my best advice is start young, but hey, whatever age you start with, I think it's great. So.
Okay, Josh, I want to call you in a week. Okay, so you can teach me and be like,
yeah, there you go. I'd be happy to. The hardest part of being a drummer is paying the money to be a drummer. Yeah. Drum sets now, when I was a kid, I think I got my first drum set and it was a nice kit. I got it for like $100, $200. Now you get a nice kit, it's going to be over $1,000. Sure. Plus you got your cymbals, right? You got Peisty, Meinl, Sabian, Zildjian are the best. And each one of those, I recently bought a cymbal that was about $400.
Wow.
So, yeah, it can be a very expensive thing for sure. And then you have to get mics potentially if you want to record, plus Ableton or Pro Tools, whatever software you like to use to record. But yeah, really, if you have the money, I'd say definitely do it. But I think any instrument is going to come with a cost. Also, the physical toll, right? You got to wear earplugs all the time. Otherwise, your ears are going to be shot. I learned that the hard way. But and then also hauling drums in and out of the venues. That's one thing that a lot of people kind of forget about. It would be really nice to, pay for a team to be able to set up and take down your drums. But, we're not that famous yet. So
I saw, like, I go to concerts sometimes and I see him like wheel up the drum, like, oh, that looks hard. You know what I mean?
it's really heavy. The bass drum is surprisingly heavy. I mean, you can get different sized bass drums. I have one kit. It's a 16-inch bass drum. So it's super light. If you're familiar with Questlove, he's the drummer for Jimmy Fallon. And
Oh, really?
yeah, so he came out with his own signature kit, and it's like a small Catalina jazz kit. That one I use for small venues, but I have a big rockin' drum set that's, I think, a 22-inch bass drum, and that thing is like trying to pick up a car. It is just so heavy. But yeah, those are just elements that a lot of people don't consider, and after a while, it's like, oh my God, why am I still doing this? But you always remember that's your passion and what you love to do, because really without it, I don't know what I'd be doing. I work full time, but my creative outlets are just too abundant. I have to fill them somehow. So
Do you ever have somebody who thinks they want to play drums, but then you like have to think, do you really want to play it?
I think that's a question for everyone who wants to play, but ultimately, yeah, I've had a few instances like that. There's a lot of different elements that come into being a musician and being a drummer. I think that sometimes people think drums are the best instrument or their personal favorite, and then they start playing for a couple of weeks and realize, oh, maybe this isn't exactly for me. I always say give it time, but that always leads to different avenues, such as guitar. Maybe that might be a better fit, or vocals, piano. Piano is a percussion instrument, so the drums and piano go hand in hand. But I work with a guy. He started on the drums, went to guitar, and now he's DJing and producing. So really, as long as you start in something in music, it's just the road is almost going to take you to the direction that you're meant to be in. So I would never shy. I guess I would never turn someone away from the drums. I would let them find that on their own. But yeah, I always say, to protect yourself though, like protect your ears and your hands. You don't want to have bad wrists or back or anything. So if I was to give any advice, it would be that, instead of turning someone away from it. So
hey, that's great advice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's my drum teacher gave me that advice when I first started. I was like, man, wonder why he's giving me that advice, because I was 15, maybe 14 when I started. He's like, trust me, when you're older, you're going to be glad that you did these things, like sitting up straight when you play, not arching your back, controlling your wrist motions. All of that is so important, because now at 28, I'm like, dude, if I didn't learn those things, my back potentially would have been shot, or my arms, it's not tinnitus. It's what's the wrist? There's the wrist, like it degenerates the nerves in your wrist, causes pain. So that's another thing that drummers kind of forget about. So yeah, that's definitely very important. So
How many bands have you performed with?
oh wow, that's I always try to think about this. Same with the number of shows I've performed. I probably performed over 500 times since I was 14, I'd say, somewhere in there, because I was part of a program called Blues Education, and I joined that. The organization is run, it's like a nonprofit in Omaha. It's run primarily by professional musicians. So they take your style, how you play, and they pair you with different musicians of the same age. So my first band, we were all 14. They get you shows, get you gigs, and have you be basically playing every weekend in different areas like Benson or Blackstone, the whole thing. We were playing pretty much everywhere. So my first band was called Running with Scissors, and I was 14. And I played in a band called Us and Them. I played in a jazz group, played in 2 blues bands, jam band, another rock band, the band I'm in currently, and then probably 3 or 4 others, I think, in my time. So definitely over 10, 11, maybe, if I was to say, somewhere in there. But band is kind of a loose term. I think if you're collaborating with musicians on musical instruments, that could be considered a band. So, which I've done a lot of, but actual professional groups, probably 10 or 11.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Are you planning on writing any more music soon?
Yep. So I'm coming out with an ambient album. of all things in a couple of weeks. It's going to be called Daydream, I think is the name of it. So ambient that's something I've been super passionate about for a couple of years, but finally got Ableton, got around to producing the album at the start of this year and kind of wrapping up things now. So that one's coming out. I don't have an exact date, but in a couple of weeks. And so yeah, I've been busy writing that music, but also music with my band. We're recording at Make Believe Studios in, I think, November 2nd and 3rd, and then the album will probably be out next year.
Is that here in Omaha?
That's here in Omaha. Yep, it's a Grammy award-winning music studio, which is super exciting to be able to go there and sort of experience that, because there's been so many big artists that have stopped through and recorded there, similar to ARC Records in Omaha. So I'm excited. I've worked with the sound engineer before. He's amazing. And the band that I'm in now is great guys and very good musicians. So I think it's going to turn out pretty good. But those are the two main projects that I'm working on right now musically.
Have you and your band ever thought about doing a Christmas album?
Christmas album, I think my jazz group that I was in, it was a quartet. We almost did a Christmas album one year, but I tell you what, those things sell. We might consider it. I know the current band that I'm in, we were joking about doing that last year, but if it happens, it happens. I'm not going to complain, but I think it's got to be right place at the right time for a Christmas album. But if we do, I'll send you the singles first to listen over and see if it's worthy of releasing.
Oh, don't worry. We'll play it here in my house. We love Christmas. So
yeah, the other day I was at, I saw Christmas decorations going up. I was like, dude, this is way too early for this. Like, it's Halloween, that's a old man gripe of mine, but Christmas
is Halloween stuff up in August, I'm like, are you serious?
Yeah. It's capitalism working its magic right there. But yeah, Christmas is definitely the best holiday for sure. Yep. I don't really think there's too many holidays better than that one, in my opinion. So
if you weren't a drummer, what would you be doing instead?
Well, right now I work a full-time job in sales for a company called WP Engine. So they're like a WordPress hosting company. Love it. So I know I would probably be doing just that. I think had I not chosen music as a kid to do, full-time professionally throughout the years, it's a question that I'm not really sure. Maybe being an author, I guess, because that's the only other thing I can really think of. But music's so ingrained in my DNA since I was young that I don't know. I guess I would be working full-time. Maybe I would have become a doctor even. I don't know. Science was never my forte. It was always creativity in high school and college, all of that. Like college algebra, I had to take mathematics twice. So maybe not a doctor, but yeah, I don't know. Probably an author, I'd say.
Where can people go to book you for gigs?
So yeah, you can just message me on Instagram at Josh DeCoster. That's a great place. My band's currently going through a name change, but the current Instagram handle is TheBots on Instagram. So you message us there. We can, definitely get a line for shows. But Instagram, yeah, that's really the best place to reach me. I guess Facebook as well, Josh DeCoster, it would be good. But I do have my email, but I think, that's probably Instagram, I'd say, would be the
best
first.
Way.
Yeah. So
have any of your favorite artists reached out to you?
So this is crazy, but I grew up listening to Tech Nine when I was a kid. So he's a huge rapper from Kansas City, big local act, probably one of the OGs, I think I could say, of hip hop. He's been at it since the 90s. I have a YouTube channel and I do drum covers. I have over 100 on there.
I've seen it. Yep.
Yep. So getting back to that, once I get a house, I'm in an apartment now. My neighbors wouldn't be too keen on me playing drums in here. So when I do get a house next year, back to the drum covers. But anyway, I posted one of a Tech Nine song, and it was so crazy because I posted it, logged off, did my thing. I think I was hanging out with my friends, and I just get back on Facebook. And I just see like all these notifications on my feed. I was like, what is this? And Tech Nine had taken my drum cover and posted it on his Facebook page. He's like, dude, this kid, I was probably like 20, I think at the time, 19. He's like, this kid rips. Like, who is this guy? And so I almost opened for Tech Nine because of that. But I did get a record deal with Universal Records through him posting that link. So
That's awesome, Josh.
yeah, I was signed for Universal for one record deal. Probably could get some more in the future. We'll see. But that was
signed?
What's that?
Are you still signed?
No, I mean, technically, yes. It was like a one album deal, though. So they're not going to continuously keep posting my music, but I still technically am signed to In Groove Records, Universal Records, and Top Notch Records is the third. So, and that's for my music production stuff. So, but yeah, Tech Nine posted it. MGK, I think, replied to one of my tweets about one of the drum covers that I posted on Twitter. And the rapper that I'm playing with in November, I'm playing drums for him. We're opening for Chris Webby, and he found me through my drum covers as well. So those have been a great avenue to connect with people. Makes you really realize how small of a world it is, despite how big it can seem. But yeah, King ISO, I played with him. He signed to Strange Music. Played with him back in June of this year, and he signed to Tech Nine's record label. So, yeah, it's crazy, being able to meet all those kinds of people and see their work. So,
how excited were you when you found that out?
The Tech Nine post. Oh, I did not sleep at all because at that time everything was up in the air. I was in college. I think I was on my second year at UNL. So I loved my major, loved what I was doing, but also I had one foot out of the door in a separate door, which was music. Like, hey, I'm going to be posting this, promoting my stuff. At any point, should I be asked to go on a tour, I'll drop what I'm doing and go. And I did get asked for a tour, but I wasn't going to get paid for it. So I was like, yeah, no way. You got to, another big tour? No, it was a small tour with the artist has grown into a medium-sized rapper in terms of fan base, but he's from the East Coast. But yeah, I needed to get paid, and plus you had to buy all these plane tickets and all that. A big advice for musicians starting out: don't do free gigs. Don't. I mean, it would have to be Madison Square Garden for me to do a free gig. But so yeah, I mean, that was very exciting. So I see Tech Nine, post my thing. And didn't sleep. I was super excited, and it just motivated me. I just kept doing more and more drum covers over that time. And yeah, I took a break for a little bit because of COVID, living situations, moving around. But hopefully going to get back to it next year as well. So,
what's your fan base name?
What's my what?
Fan base name, or do you have one?
Well, I don't know, actually. My new band is brand new. We started really technically December of 2021. So that's a question I'll have to take to them. And we practice tomorrow. So I will message you that. And if this interview is not published at that time, then we can, I don't know, add something in there. But I'll ask them. If I could come up with something, I don't know. I can't at the moment on the top of my head, but that's my homework after this.
That's your homework.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. You ready to talk about the podcast?
Yeah, I'd love to. That's we're recording an episode, I think, next week, but we're almost to 100 right now, which is wild to think about. So
how are you planning to celebrate the 100th episode?
So our fan base is weird. To put it, in the lightest of terms.
I enjoy your podcast, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. We have some weird followers, which is a good thing. But so we have like a lot of hidden jokes or kind of jokes that only certain people would understand. They're kind of repetitive jokes, and so we got a cameo from a guy that we always play his TikToks on our podcast. So he did a whole 4-minute long cameo for us talking about the 100th episode, and we'll do that. We'll probably have a few guests on. We're going to potentially get Andrew Strickler on, who was on there previously. He went to high school with both of us. I don't know. Louis had a whole doc of information for the 100th episode planned out, and it just got deleted by accident. So we do have to find some stuff to do, but it's going to be wild, I think.
I can't wait to listen to it.
Yeah, I mean, live streaming almost would be fun for it too. But maybe some video, because we have yet to do video. We keep talking that we're going to do it, but it's a whole different beast to try to do, as you're familiar with, to try to set up video,
Yep.
link it with the audio, when, through Anchor, we could just upload our audio directly and it posts it to Spotify and YouTube and all those places. So
hey, if you need help, I'm your guy, so I can help you out.
Cool. Well, we might hit you up on that, man, for sure, because it is definitely a hassle. I've done a lot of video editing in the past, but yeah, I think
it's not easy.
It's not. No. It definitely boosts your following quite a bit. I mean, you see all the top podcasts like Two Bears, One Cave, and Tom Segura's podcast, Your Mom's House. They all use video, and they have like the whole surround things, the whole surround setup. I mean, it's crazy, but that's definitely probably something we'll do for the 100th episode.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Who is a guest that you want to have on the show that you haven't already?
Famous or not famous?
Anybody.
Oh boy, that's tough. Considering the genre that we do and the wild content that we talk about, I would say someone like Bert Kreischer in terms of fame. I think that he would match the podcast perfectly. He's quite the drinker. We don't ever drink when we record. I think we only did maybe once or twice, because we're called running up the tab, right? But we don't drink when we record. It's the craziest concept, but we find ourselves at the sharpest when we're not drinking. But Bert Kreischer would fit the genre perfectly of what we do.
So how do you guys decide what topics to talk about on each episode?
We have a doc actually that's set up, a Google Doc, and we just, Louis follows some very weird Twitter accounts and TikTok accounts. He's the primary contributor to the content. I don't have TikTok. I know I probably should, consider.
I don't have TikTok either, so.
You don't? Okay, good for you. That's good. I mean, I love TikTok and I respect it, but I know I would spend too much time on it. I like to spend a lot of my free time either reading or, Instagram already takes up too much of my time. But Louis has TikTok, follows some weird folks, gets a lot of cringy content from there. And just really day-to-day life, you see some wild stuff when you're out there. So throwing these kind of stories, and we had a wild high school career and college career. I mean, we partied pretty hard and had a good time. So we have a lot of stories from that as well.
How did you guys come up with the name?
Oh man, that's a good question. I'll have to ask Louis that, but we started in May of 2019, and the way that we started was everyone saying, you guys should have a podcast, right? We would have these tremendously weird conversations because we're so close as friends, and people are like, why don't you do a podcast? So finally, with my drum mics of all things, this is before we get professional mics, we record our first episode, and we didn't have a name, didn't have a title. We're like, well, what are we going to call it? And I think the night we were sharing some cocktails after the fact, and we're like, well, let's just call it Running Up the Tab. It might have been Derek, I think, that came up with the name, but that generated, it stuck. Derek created all of the merch, all of the logo, everything Derek really created. And Louis helped contribute, I helped contribute, but it just sort of came out of nowhere. So
what do you guys hope that people get from your show?
To have fun. That's the biggest thing. There's nothing meaningful that you can really take from that show. You're not going to learn anything. Maybe you will about pop culture. I mean, we talk a lot about cringe, like the Adam Levine fiasco was the most recent thing that we talked about, but
yep.
Have fun. It's a nice break for people during their day. I mean, work and COVID stuff, it can get so stressful with life, and just being able to sit down, have a drink, and listen and laugh. That's the ultimate thing I want people to take away, is just to forget about the bad things potentially going on in their life, and take a break. So
I love your broadcast because I know you guys are just having fun, and it's just enjoyable to listen to. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's so much fun to record. I look forward to going over there all the time. We just do it in Derek's basement. He's got a nice little setup down there. His dad will hang out down there sometimes and just listen like, what the hell?
Does he ever try not to laugh?
Yeah. He always tries not to laugh because, I mean, you listen to our conversations. I mean, my boss listened to our podcast the other day. He's like, what is wrong with you guys? I think that's the question, but it's so funny compared to my music stuff, which can get so sophisticated. Just to be just dumb on that podcast is so much fun, and the chemistry that all three of us have is irreplaceable. So,
but yeah, thank you so much for coming on my show, Josh.
Yeah, thank you. This was great. I've been looking forward to this since you messaged me about it. So I'm very happy to have come on. I think that this is great. So definitely got to get you on the podcast.
I would definitely enjoy it.
Yeah, that would be a good time. So yeah, we'll send you some details here soon about it. So
I know I was talking to Louie about maybe having everybody on my show, like a collaboration.
Yeah, they would love to do that. I mean, that would be cool. We would have the mics too set up, so that would have really good audio. So that would be great.
Yeah, just let me know when you guys are free and we could work out something.
Cool. Sounds good. We will. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Josh.
Yeah, thank you. It was good chatting with you. See you later.
Good chatting with you. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Yep. Bye-bye.